Lieutenant James Harrison stood at the Pentagon's command center, watching as the massive ships darkened Earth's skies. Their obsidian hulls absorbed sunlight like cosmic predators, waiting to strike. 36 hours had passed since they appeared, and still no communication. "Sir, energy signatures are spiking across all vessels," Technical Officer Raina Patel's voice cracked with tension. Her dark fingers flew across holographic displays, tracking power fluctuations that made his stomach sink. "Location?" Harrison demanded, though he already knew. They all knew. "Major population centers. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow." Raina's voice trailed off as the first beam struck. The command center erupted in chaos as reports flooded in. The aliens weren't attacking infrastructure or military targets, they were taking people. Abduction beams swept through cities, pulling thousands into the sky. Harrison clenched his fists as footage showed civilians vanishing mid-stride, their loved ones left reaching for empty air. This wasn't war. This was harvest. "Get me everything we have on their shield frequencies," Harrison ordered, already moving toward the door. "And find me a pilot crazy enough to fly into that mess." "Where are you going, sir?" Raina called after him. "To do something stupid," he replied, breaking into a run. 20 minutes later, Harrison sat in the cockpit of an experimental F-52 Raptor, its neural interface humming against his temples. The quantum engines screamed as he pushed through the stratosphere, heading straight for the largest ship over Washington, D.C. "You realize this is suicide, right?" His wingmate, Thomas Chen, questioned through the comm. "Their tech is centuries ahead of ours." "Maybe," Harrison agreed, watching the alien vessel grow larger in his viewport. "But they haven't met American stubbornness yet." The alien ship's hull rippled like liquid metal as they approached. Harrison's sensors screamed warnings as energy weapons charged, but he held course. Just before impact, a tractor beam seized both fighters, pulling them into a massive hangar bay. Harrison's cockpit opened automatically, and he found himself facing a dozen armed figures. Their armor seemed to flow like quicksilver, faces hidden behind faceless masks. But their leader stepped forward, removing her helmet to reveal a sight that stopped his heart. She was humanoid, with pale violet skin and eyes like liquid silver. Her white hair floated as if underwater, framing features that could have graced any Earth fashion magazine, if not for their otherworldly perfection. "I am War Commander Vexana of the Stellar Dominion," she announced, her voice carrying both authority and curiosity. "You show either great courage or great foolishness, attacking a superior force." Harrison removed his own helmet, meeting her gaze. "Lieutenant James Harrison, United States Air Force. And we're not the ones who started this fight." "Fight?" Vexana's laugh was musical, yet held no warmth. "This is not a fight, Lieutenant. This is selection. Your species has potential, buried beneath primitive technology and emotional weakness. We will purify you, perfect you. By kidnapping innocent people." Harrison's voice hardened. "That's not perfection, Commander. That's tyranny." Something flickered in Vexana's silver eyes, surprise, perhaps, or intrigue. "You speak boldly for a primitive. Most species beg for mercy when we arrive." "Yeah, well, we humans have a bad habit of fighting lost causes," Harrison replied, noting the positions of her guards. "And we're really good at surprising people who underestimate us." Before Vexana could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Her guards turned, weapons raised, as explosions rocked the vessel. Harrison allowed himself a small smile. "What have you done?" Vexana demanded, her composure cracking. "Remember those crafts you captured last week during your first abductions?" Harrison's smile grew. "They weren't empty when your ships absorbed them. Earth's best computer experts have been inside your network for days, learning, waiting. Still think we're primitive?" The hangar bay erupted in chaos as prison cells throughout the ship opened simultaneously. Released humans fought back against their captors with desperate fury. Vexana's silver eyes locked onto Harrison's, filled with a mixture of rage and something else, respect. "You'll doom your entire species with this defiance," she warned, even as more explosions rocked the ship. "Maybe," Harrison acknowledged. "But we'll do it on our feet, making our own choices. That's what makes us human." As alarms screamed and battle raged around them, Harrison saw uncertainty cross Vexana's perfect features. For the first time, the Stellar Dominion was learning that not all species would submit to their version of perfection. And somehow, as Harrison prepared himself for what came next, he knew this was just the beginning. The war commander raised her weapon, but hesitated. In that moment of doubt, Earth's future hung in the balance. And James Harrison, representing humanity's defiance, stood ready to show these alien conquerors exactly what they had underestimated. The Stellar Dominion's flagship burned in Earth's atmosphere, a testament to human defiance. War Commander Vexana watched from her emergency command center as rescue ships retrieved escape pods from her crippled vessel. Her silver eyes narrowed at tactical displays showing the human resistance spreading worldwide. "Impossible," her second-in-command, Zyric, muttered. "These primitives shouldn't have been able to breach our systems." "Yet they did," Vexana replied, remembering the fierce determination in Lieutenant Harrison's eyes. "We underestimated them. A mistake we won't repeat." Deep beneath the Pentagon, Harrison reviewed footage of the successful raid. Thousands of abducted humans had been freed, but millions remained captive throughout the alien fleet. The victory felt hollow. "Their security protocols have adapted," Reyna reported, dark circles under her eyes betraying sleepless nights of coding. "We won't be able to use the same trick twice." Harrison nodded, studying holographic projections of alien ship movements. "We don't need the same trick. We need a better one." He turned to the assembled military leaders. "The Dominion thinks in straight lines: conquest, perfection, submission. But humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to think around corners." Across the globe, a desperate plan took shape. While the aliens expected military resistance, they weren't prepared for the sheer creativity of human defiance. Civilian hackers turned traffic systems against alien ground forces. Street artists used UV paint to blind alien sensors. Teenagers with drones became reconnaissance experts. Vexana found herself increasingly fascinated by human adaptability. Each defeat should have broken their spirit. Instead, they evolved, learning, growing stronger. Her private research into human history revealed a species that thrived on adversity. "Commander," Zyric interrupted her thoughts. "We've captured a human resistance leader." Harrison was dragged before her in chains, bloodied but unbowed. His dark hair was matted with sweat, but his eyes still held that maddening defiance. "We meet again, Lieutenant," Vexana said softly. "Your resistance is tactically impressive, but ultimately futile." "Funny thing about humans," Harrison replied, testing his restraints. "We don't believe in futile. We're too stubborn." "Your species has potential," Vexana admitted, stepping closer. "That's why we choose to perfect you. To remove the flaws that hold you back." "Our flaws are what make us human," Harrison countered. "Our mistakes teach us. Our differences strengthen us. Our emotions." He met her gaze, "They drive us to achieve the impossible." Something stirred in Vexana's chest, an unfamiliar sensation she quickly suppressed. "Your emotions make you vulnerable. Your individuality makes you chaotic. Our chaos makes us creative," Harrison smiled. "For instance." The ship's lights flickered. Alarms blared. "Remember how you captured me?" Harrison's smile grew. "Did you really think I'd come alone?" Explosions rocked the vessel as quantum-triggered charges detonated throughout the ship. Harrison's restraints fell away, they'd been hacked hours ago. Vexana found herself facing him as an equal, no barriers between them. You're learning our weaknesses, she acknowledged, drawing her weapon. But you don't know everything about us. No, Harrison agreed, raising his hands slowly. Just like you don't know everything about us. Did you scan me for quantum entanglement devices? Vexana's eyes widened as Harrison's form flickered. A hologram. The real Harrison was elsewhere in the ship, leading another rescue mission. You see, Commander, his voice echoed as his image faded, humans don't just think outside the box. We burn the box and dance in its ashes. Through the chaos of another failing ship, Vexana felt something she'd never experienced in centuries of conquest, doubt. These humans, with their passionate defiance and ingenious chaos, were changing everything she thought she knew about strength and perfection. In her private quarters later, she reviewed footage of Harrison's escape. Her subordinates assumed she was studying human tactics. Instead, she found herself watching his eyes, seeing the interplay of determination, compassion, and that strange spark that made humans so uniquely dangerous. The stellar dominion had conquered 1,000 worlds. They had perfected countless species. But humanity wasn't breaking. They were becoming something new, something that challenged everything the Dominion represented. And deep in her genetically perfected heart, Vexana felt an alien emotion taking root, admiration. As Harrison's resistance sparked similar uprisings on other conquered worlds, the Dominion faced an unprecedented crisis. Their perfect order was being disrupted by the very chaos they sought to eliminate. And at the heart of this storm, two leaders from different stars found themselves drawn together by forces neither fully understood. The battle for Earth had become more than a conquest. It was becoming a crucible that would either destroy both species or transform them into something entirely new. And neither Harrison nor Vexana could predict where this collision of cultures would lead. The warning came too late. By the time Dominion scientists realized their mistake, the bioweapon had already mutated beyond control. Designed to suppress human emotion and resistance, it instead began affecting both species, breaking down the barriers between human and alien DNA. Harrison watched in horror as the first cases appeared in New Delhi. Humans and Dominion soldiers alike collapsed, their genetic codes rewriting themselves. The virus didn't kill, it transformed. It's breaking down the distinction between our species, Reyna explained, showing him cellular scans. The virus sees us all as one genetic template and tries to merge us. In her flagship's quarantine zone, Vexana faced the same crisis. A third of her crew showed symptoms, their perfect forms destabilizing. Worse, the virus had begun affecting their mental conditioning, awakening emotions that centuries of genetic engineering had suppressed. The human genome is corrupting our purity, Zyric raged, even as silver scales appeared on his violet skin. We must cleanse them all. No, Vexana commanded, watching her own hands where faint traces of human-like pigmentation had begun appearing. We caused this. And perhaps that's not corruption we're seeing. Perhaps it's evolution. The emergency transmission from Earth came on all frequencies. Harrison's voice, steady despite everything, Commander Vexana. We have a proposal. In a sealed conference room on neutral ground, a space station orbiting Earth's moon, Harrison and Vexana met face to face. Both showed early signs of transformation, their appearances slowly converging toward something between human and Dominion. Our best minds working separately have failed, Harrison said, watching how Vexana's silver eyes now held flecks of brown. But together. You believe cooperation is the answer. Vexana's voice held less of its artificial perfection, becoming more naturally melodic. After everything we've done, I believe survival is the answer, Harrison replied. And maybe this virus is showing us something important. Our species aren't as different as you thought. Together, they reviewed the combined research. Human scientists had discovered that their genetic flaws, the very imperfections the Dominion sought to eliminate, held keys to controlling the transformation. Meanwhile, Dominion technology could stabilize the process, preventing it from becoming lethal. Your chaos, Vexana mused, studying DNA models, it creates resistance to change. Adaptability. While our perfection. She paused, touching her changing skin, made us vulnerable to it. Working side by side, human and Dominion researchers made breakthroughs that neither could have achieved alone. Harrison found himself spending long hours with Vexana, watching as the rigid military commander gave way to someone more complex, more real. "Tell me," she asked one night, as they watched Earth rise over the lunar horizon, "in all your human literature about first contact, did any predict this? Two species becoming one?" Harrison smiled, noting how her laugh had become more genuine, her movements less artificial. "Humans have imagined everything. That's our gift. We dream impossible dreams, then find ways to make them real." The virus continued to spread, but its effects had become controllable. Those infected didn't die or degrade, they emerged stronger, combining the best of both species. Human creativity with Dominion focus. Earth passion with alien technology. Not everyone accepted the change. Hardliners on both sides called for genocide. But as more transformed individuals emerged, displaying incredible abilities and insights, it became harder to deny that something remarkable was happening. "We thought we were perfecting species," Vexana admitted, examining her transformed reflection. Her skin now held both human and alien characteristics, beautiful in its uniqueness. "But we were just forcing them into stasis. Real perfection comes from growth, from change." Harrison touched her hand, their partially transformed skin tones complementing each other. "That's what makes humanity special. We never stop changing, never stop reaching for something more." As the crisis stabilized, a new question emerged: what would become of their two civilizations? The transformed population was growing, creating a bridge between worlds. Old prejudices began falling away as people on both sides realized they were witnessing not an ending, but a beginning. "The Dominion won't easily accept this," Vexana warned, though her tone held more wry amusement than concern. "We've spent millennia pursuing our version of perfection. Then it's time for a new definition," Harrison replied. "One that values diversity over uniformity, growth over stasis." In her quarters, Vexana found herself reading human poetry, finding truth in its beautiful chaos. Meanwhile, Harrison studied Dominion philosophy, seeing wisdom in its structured harmony. Like their bodies, their minds were transforming, creating something greater than either had been alone. The virus that was meant to end resistance had instead broken down the greatest barrier of all, the illusion that different meant incompatible. As human and alien learned to become something new together, the stars themselves seemed to hold new promise. And in the quiet moments between crisis and transformation, Harrison and Vexana found themselves writing a new chapter in the story of two species, one that began with war but might end with something far more powerful: understanding. Deep within the transformed sections of Houston Space Center, human and Dominion scientists worked together on something unprecedented. Harrison watched as hybrid technology took shape, sleek Dominion alloys merged with human innovation, creating ships unlike anything either civilization had seen before. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Vexana said, joining him on the observation deck. Her transformed appearance had stabilized into an ethereal blend of both species, matching her evolved perspective. "Though my former masters would consider it an abomination. The Dominion High Command still won't negotiate?" Harrison asked, though he already knew the answer. The Dominion's response to the transformation had been to quarantine Earth's entire sector, threatening to sterilize any system showing signs of the corruption. "They're afraid," Vexana explained, watching hybrid crews work below. "Not of the transformation itself, but of what it represents. We're proof that their perfect system isn't the only path forward." The prototype vessel they watched was Earth's answer to the Dominion's threats. Dubbed the Phoenix, it combined Dominion quantum drives with human neural interfaces. Its weapons were enhanced by human creativity and alien precision. But its true power lay in its hybrid crew, transformed individuals whose unique abilities made them one with their ship. The test flights are exceeding all projections, Reyna reported, her own partially transformed features bright with excitement. The hybrid crews can push the technology far beyond original specs. It's like the ships respond to their very thoughts. Harrison nodded, remembering his own test flight. The connection had been incredible, not the cold efficiency of Dominion tech, but something alive, intuitive. How soon can we launch the fleet? 2 weeks, Reyna replied. But Harrison, we've found something else. Something in the hybrid genetic code that doesn't make sense. In the genetics lab, holographic displays showed twisted strands of DNA, human, Dominion, and something else. Ancient markers that appeared in both species, dormant until the transformation awakened them. These sequences, Vexana breathed, her scientific training recognizing the implications. They're too similar to be coincidence. Our species, we share common ancestry. Impossible, Zyrek interrupted from the doorway. The formerly loyal second-in-command had chosen transformation over death, though he still struggled with its implications. The Dominion arose naturally as the perfect species. Did we? Vexana challenged. Or were we engineered, just as we tried to engineer others? Look at these markers, they're artificial. Someone designed both our species, eons ago. Before they could process this revelation, alarms blared. The Dominion High Command had tired of waiting. A massive fleet was approaching Earth, led by the Perfection, a planet-killer-class vessel. Time to see what human chaos and Dominion precision can really do together, Harrison said, heading for the Phoenix. Vexana fell into step beside him, their movements unconsciously synchronized. The hybrid fleet launched under cover of a quantum storm, another gift of combined technologies. Transformed pilots merged with their ships, moving with impossible grace. The Phoenix led the charge, Harrison and Vexana commanding together from its neural center. What followed was a battle unlike any in human or Dominion history. Hybrid ships danced through space, their human creativity making them unpredictable while Dominion tech made them lethal. They struck from impossible angles, using maneuvers no computer would calculate. This is your final warning, the Dominion Admiral's transmission boomed. Submit to cleansing or face extinction. Harrison and Vexana shared a look, their hybrid eyes meeting in perfect understanding. You know what humanity says to warnings like that? Harrison replied, as the Phoenix's quantum core pulsed with power. We say, watch this. The hybrid fleet moved as one, executing a battle plan that could only have come from transformed minds. They didn't just fight the Dominion ships, they outthought them, outmaneuvered them, turned their perfect formations into a weakness. But as they pushed toward victory, the Phoenix's sensors detected something impossible. The Perfection wasn't just a weapon, it was a key to something hidden in Earth's own solar system. Something ancient that had been waiting for two species to finally work together. Harrison, Vexana called, her hands flying over quantum controls. These readings, there's a structure hidden in Saturn's rings. Artificial. Older than both our civilizations. As the battle raged around them, humanity's hybrid fleet found itself on the verge of not just saving Earth, but discovering the truth about both species' origins. The real question wasn't who would win this fight, it was what they would find when they unlocked the secrets their ancient creators had left behind. The Phoenix turned toward Saturn, even as the Perfection's weapons charged. The next few hours would determine not just the fate of two species, but the truth about their shared destiny. And at the heart of it all, two former enemies worked as one, proving that sometimes the best future comes from embracing change rather than fighting it. The ancient structure within Saturn's rings defied comprehension. As the Phoenix approached, massive segments of ice and rock parted, revealing a station that dwarfed anything built by humans or the Dominion. Its architecture was both organic and mechanical, as if grown rather than constructed. Beautiful, Vexana whispered, her transformed eyes reflecting the station's crystalline surface. Beside her, Harrison felt the same awe, their hybrid DNA resonating with something deep within the structure. Behind them, the battle raged. The hybrid fleet held the Dominion Armada at bay, but the Perfection's planet-killer weapon was nearly charged. They had minutes, at most. The station's activating, Reyna reported from her neural interface. It's responding to our hybrid signatures. A beam of light engulfed the Phoenix, drawing them into a vast docking bay. As Harrison and Vexana stepped onto the ancient deck, their transformed bodies tingled with recognition. The air itself seemed alive with purpose. "Welcome, children," a voice echoed, not in their ears, but in their minds. Holographic forms shimmered into existence around them, beings that combined organic and mechanical elements in perfect harmony. "We have waited so long for this moment." The beings called themselves the Precursors. Through a neural interface that felt as natural as breathing, they shared their story. They had seeded the galaxy with life, creating species in pairs, each designed to complete the other. Humans and the Dominion were intended to be partners, not adversaries. The Dominion was given the gift of order, the Precursors explained, while humanity received the gift of chaos. Apart, each gift was incomplete. Together, we become something greater, Vexana finished, understanding dawning in her hybrid eyes. But the reunion of their species had come with a price. The Perfection's weapons had reached full charge, its target locked on Earth. "There is a way to stop them," the Precursors offered. "But it requires both of you, working as one. The station's core contains the power to affect quantum reality itself. With your combined DNA, you can activate it." Harrison and Vexana shared a look that contained volumes. "Whatever it takes," they said in unison. In the station's heart, they found a chamber that pulsed with living light. As they stepped onto the central platform, their bodies began to glow with the same energy that had transformed them. But this was different, not a transformation, but an awakening. Through their neural link, Harrison felt Vexana's presence, her thoughts intertwining with his. Together, they reached for the station's power, their hybrid nature allowing them to grasp what neither species could alone. Reality itself seemed to flex around the Phoenix. The Perfection's weapon fired, but the blast curved impossibly, drawn into a quantum singularity that hadn't existed moments before. Throughout the system, hybrid crews felt their powers amplify, their ships moving with impossible grace. "You see now," the Precursors communicated, "why you were made for each other. Order without chaos becomes stagnant. Chaos without order becomes destructive. But together we create something new." Harrison and Vexana spoke as one, their combined consciousness extending through the hybrid fleet. The Dominion Armada found itself outmatched not just by superior technology, but by a fundamental shift in reality itself. Ships piloted by transformed crews bent space in ways their perfect computers couldn't predict. The Perfection, pride of the Dominion fleet, was surrounded. "This is War Commander Vexana," her voice rang across all frequencies, carried by the station's power. "By the authority of the Precursors themselves, I order all Dominion forces to stand down." "The Dominion does not recognize your authority, traitor," the Admiral sneered. "You have become corrupted." "No," Harrison's voice joined hers, their words carrying the weight of newly awakened power. "She's become complete. As we all were meant to be." Through their expanded consciousness, they shared the truth with every mind in the system, human, Dominion, and hybrid alike. The Precursor's vision of two species working in harmony, creating wonders neither could achieve alone. The gift of transformation wasn't corruption, but fulfillment. One by one, Dominion ships lowered their weapons. Many of their crews, exposed to the truth, chose transformation willingly. The Admiral, faced with mutiny and undeniable proof of his civilization's true purpose, surrendered. In the aftermath, as hybrid ships began exploring the ancient station, Harrison and Vexana stood watching Earth rise over Saturn's rings. Their bodies still hummed with precursor energy, their consciousness expanded beyond what either had imagined possible. "So, Harrison smiled, taking her hand. Was this enough chaos for you? Vexana's laugh held all the music of her Dominion heritage and all the warmth of her human side. Perhaps just enough order for you. Around them, the station awakened fully, revealing technologies and truths that would reshape both civilizations. But its greatest gift had already been given, the proof that differences weren't weaknesses to be erased, but strengths to be celebrated. As hybrid ships carried the news of transformation across the galaxy, the story of Earth's resistance became legend. Not because humanity had defeated the Dominion, but because they had shown them a better way. Together, the children of two stars would forge a future their creators had only dreamed possible. And somewhere in the quantum consciousness they now shared, Harrison and Vexana's minds danced together, order and chaos in perfect harmony, writing the first chapter of a whole new kind of story.